Welcome. This is Ray's Quest Body and Mind. This evening's guest is Angela Orr. We'll be discussing Heartmath Institute and a little device they have called a heart rate variable monitor and how it measures your heart coherence and how important heart coherence is in meditation process. This is going to be interesting. Come join us.
Good evening. My name is Ray Dwyer, and this is Ray's Quest Body and Mind. My guest tonight is Angela Orr, and what a career she's had. She is a registered pharmacist, and the first thing I thought of when I thought of that is a pharmacist, really? And then I learned she's a high level mentor, a certified heart math practitioner, certified stress and well being assessment provider, executive mentor, Psych K facilitator. If you don't know what Psych K is, look it up on YouTube. It is fascinating work.
Mm.
Certified EFT and TFT provider. Okay, I'll be asking her what that means. A published author and speaker, and a pharmacist for 38 years. She's a serial entrepreneur. She's owned her own businesses, not just work in a pharmacy. She owned her own business for 15 years in Maine. An accomplished person for sure. And she is here at my request because Heartmath Institute is a big thing when you're early in Dr. Joe's work, learning how to get that coherence, heart coherence. And we'll be talking about what that is as well. Everybody, welcome my friend and the amazing lady, Angela Orr. Hello,
Thank
Angela.
you, Ray. Thank you, thank you. I appreciate the claps. I know quite a few people here this evening, and if I do know you, wonderful. If I don't know you, you're just a friend that I haven't met yet. And I'm really honored to be here. Thank you, Ray, for inviting me. And as Ray said, have a host of different things that I do. I am a pharmacist, actually now, Ray, 39 years. This year is 39 years I'll have been a pharmacist, although I consider myself the pillless pharmacist because I believe that there are ways to perhaps not have to use medication through different modalities such as meditation, journaling, breathing, the things that we do. And heart math is one of my specialties. And that's
Would
what
you
we want to talk it out about tonight is heart math.
do you help people with homeopathic things, herbs and things like that? I mean
No, I do
that
not.
to me would be a great second career of a pharmaceutical pharmacist to get into the homeopathy, I believe is the term.
Yep. And it's interesting because I am a community pharmacist. That's what I've done pretty much my whole career, but that is not an area. And there are areas that are specialty pharmacists who are naturopathic pharmacists or functional medicine pharmacists. So it's interesting. There's all these different ways that people practice pharmacy, or you would think that maybe a pharmacist would um, look at. But what I believe is that, and this goes right along with Heart Math and Dr. Joe, is that we can produce our own chemicals internally, so our own drugs. And any drug that you take is mimicking an internal natural substance that you have. That's why, and because the placebo effect, where um, so much of with the placebo effect, so much of an effect of something is because of the perception of it, not necessarily that it works or don't works.
Right.
So, so that's why. But I'm sorry, go ahead. Were you going to say something,
No, I was
Ray?
going to say one of the things that you brought up that I discovered or learned through Dr. Joe is that pharmaceuticals work because our body already has receptors for those
Yes,
drugs. And he
yes.
brought up the question, why do you already have receptors for those drugs? Why is those bodies
So,
able?
so
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, so just by a showing of hands for the people who are on, how many of you knew that, like, for any manufactured chemical, we already have a receptor in our body? Do people realize that? No. Okay, that's interesting. So that, and that's why they call it the placebo effect, because when you take something externally in to your body, it has to be recognized by the body to be used, whether that's an antidepressant or an antibiotic or whatever that may be. But any way that the body, any mechanism that the body uses to read that, whatever you're ingesting, it has a natural receptor that something natural can fit into that.
And the
And
body, it has it because the body has potentially the ability to make it already.
absolutely,
That's what blew
absolutely,
my
your body
mind.
has the ability to make, and actually, in a lot of the research from Dr. Joe, in the last year or so, and he has some blogs about it, how one of the areas that they find in the coherence healing, which probably I would assume most of you know about. I assume I'm making some assumptions that people know about Dr. Joe work and whether or not you've been to an event that you know, like what a coherence healing is.
Some
Yes,
of them may
everybody
or some may
understands.
not, but we'll get into the word coherence because we're going to define that word here in
Yeah,
just a little bit.
but in the coherence healings, one of the biggest revelations for the researchers is that it was the people who were in pain who got some of the most benefit, and that's because your body is really good at making its own internal opioids. So it's just, and I don't know how we got off on that, but that is heart math, and that's not because, but heart math does study how, when you are in a heart coherent state, how that changes your biology and chemistry.
And that's
So
how
what
we
I
got
like,
there.
and that's how we got there. So what I'd like to do, what I'd like to start with is HeartMath has a wonderful um, free resource, and it's called the HeartMath Experience, and it's like 9 videos, about 90 minutes, but it's really great. It has a very good overview of HeartMath, and what I'd like to do is to just um, show the introductory video. So it gives you a really good idea. So how many of you here, I know all of you are familiar with Dr. Joe's work, but how many of you are familiar with Heartmath Institute? If I can get a show of hands. So some people, probably some more than others. So what I tell you tonight may be new information. It may be a review of what you already know. It may be something you've never heard before. But let me start by sharing my screen and showing the HeartMath experience. And Ray, can you see that? I'm going to make it
There it is. I
full.
see it.
Does everybody see it now?
Yes.
Okay. Can you hear me? Can you feel me? This is a story about your life and about new ways to see the outer world. Heart's going to change the inner world. We can take charge of how we feel more than we may think. It allows me to be present, centered, and focused. I just find that deeper place in myself where I can feel that sense of love. And as more people come together, it's going to draw in a whole new awareness. But the heart really is an access point to our larger self that can bring in that intelligence of another dimension. So now we're starting to have a scientific understanding that these higher quality emotions that people have always associated with the heart really do affect the way the heart beats and the quality of the neural signals being sent to the brain, which it then interprets.
Heart and brain are in constant communication. The heart is doing most of the talking. Let's do an exercise now to get a better sense of how you're experiencing emotions that renew or drain you. Okay.
I'd like you to think of a specific situation that you feel has been difficult to solve these past few days.
In this experience, through learning simple techniques, seeing real-life examples, and hearing from experts and others, you will have the opportunity to experience your heart's intelligence and how it can help you physically, emotionally, and spiritually. You'll see how you can connect with your heart in practical ways to reduce the stress of daily life, meet challenges with more ease, and become more of who you truly are.
You'll learn to listen to and follow the magnificent intuitive presence of your heart.
It's heart time on the planet.
So that video is part of a series of videos in a program that is offered for free by Heartmath. And Ray, I believe you're going to drop the link when you download the video. It'll be in there. So it's called the Heartmath Experience, and it's about 90 minutes, but it's several different, it's like I said, about 9 different videos that just really goes over the basics of Heartmath, and very high quality, very good information with some of their basic techniques. Why I got involved with Heartmath and what I love about Heartmath is that, I feel that Heartmath to me has been a really easy way to be able to stay in a state after my meditation through the day. As we all know, or most of us probably do some kind of meditation or some kind of mindfulness work in the morning. And when you leave that state and you go through your day, if you, as Dr. Joe says, if you don't stay in that state, it's hard to really be where you want to be emotionally, mentally, attracting what you want in your life, because you have to have that elevated emotion as well as the clear intention. So it does you no good to be in a meditative state and then go out and flip off your neighbor or your your boss, or you walk into boss and you walk into work and you think your boss is your cortisol goes up and this. So to me, what I love about Heartmath is that it's just a very simple but profound way that I use to keep me in that state throughout the day. And I can do it. You can really kind of get more centered, as they were saying, get more connected within a minute. And what's beyond that, when you really practice Heartmath, I find that it is a really great way to listen to your heart. So many of us, I just did an email on this about coming back home to yourself. So many of us are busy in the world with our life, with this, with that, with everything going on. And yet we rarely stop and take time. And even in meditations, I think they're great, especially the guided meditation from Dr. Joe, and you go to space and time and this, that. But sometimes you need to just sit and be with yourself and listen to your heart's intuition. I like to say it begins and ends with the heart. That you will never go wrong listening to your heart's intuition. And people are like, well, how do I do that? You need to stop and listen to it. And so often we just, it's a skill. And I think it's something that Heartmath helps with, because it's a skill that we have to develop. And I'm going to go through an experience of that, during tonight's call. But Ray, do you have any specific questions so far? I feel like I'm just, going on, although I love it. You can tell I can talk hours about it. You're muted.
There you go. Yeah. Let's get some terms defined for the people who may be here. I know I have some students. We're all students that have been in the work for some time, and but let's talk about the word coherence and the basic mechanics of coherence, which is at the core of what we're talking about tonight.
So coherence is when you have a, the best way that I like to describe coherence is when you have a heartbeat that is in a rhythmic pattern that that you can get to through breath. So what happens is, if you think about a normal state that you're in, where you're, a lot of times in life we are live in perpetual stress, and we live in this perpetual cycle of running, or being stressed out, or trying to do this or that. And what happens is you can get a very erratic heartbeat. And I'm not talking about like a heartbeat where it's a medical, where it's medically, like you have to go to the hospital because it's erratic, where you have like angina or something like that. But I'm just talking about with it, and you probably can feel it when you are really stressed out, like your heart beats a little bit erratic, and you feel like a little winded. You can't really, you're not, um, you just know that your heartbeat is not in a rhythmic, calm fashion. And through breath, you can actually put your heartbeat into a coherent state, which means that your heart rate is evenly beating between each beat. Another way to put it, the coherence is when, so in your, this is what I've been trying to say. So you have a nervous system. It's your autonomic nervous system. So we have a nervous system, and there are two parts of it. You have your sympathetic and parasympathetic. And when those are out of balance, does that answer your question?
Pretty much. Uh, Sandra mentioned people with PTSD, and I was a basket case for that. I went through a medical experience at the VA Medical Center here in Dallas, and I think it took them 2 hours to send me to a specialist who declared me PTSD. I mean, I had no idea that it was so obvious, but they went in there and said, "Ray, you got problems." Yeah, I got this. No, that ain't the problem we're talking about. Let me introduce you to this guy over here, and that started my journey and realizing that what I didn't even know the term PTSD. And so, back to the question, how does this apply to people with PTSD? PTSD, first of all, is chronic analytical. I mean, just that's what stress is, an analytical thing. You're always like this. How does someone with that get to the awareness and then go from the next step into coherence and peace? PTSD is a tough nut to crack.
I am not a specialist in PTSD, so I'm just going to say that right up front. Um, but PTSD, so Heartmath works with a lot of organizations, including the military, and they work with quite a few veterans. As I said before, we have a parasympathetic nervous system and a sympathetic nervous system. And the sympathetic nervous system is that fight or flight. So a lot of people who are in PTSD have that fight or flight syndrome going on, where everything is a trigger. I should say everything. Many things are a trigger, or you're always feeling like you're living on the edge because you're so hyper vigilant. You're so aware of, trying to be aware of your surroundings because of some harm may come to you. And that's what fight or flight, what we were born with, and what we needed, like say 1,000 years ago when we were running from the T-Rexes or running from the saber-tooth tigers. In nature, most animals, once they get away from that danger, they can then get out of that system and get into more of the parasympathetic, which is the more natural order of your heart is more rhythmic, you're more in balance, you have more stable heartbeat. But in today's world, unfortunately, what happens is you see everything as the T-Rex. Your mother-in-law, your boss, as I said. So using Heartmath and using the techniques that we use, it helps people to regulate those two systems. And that is what helps the PTSD or other emotions. I see here also where Mary talked about how it helped with your PTSD. So it is shown that it can be used to effectively with PTSD, with other emotions, because the more that we can get ourselves into a coherent state, the more we regulate those nervous systems, the more that you can affect the biology and physiology and chemistry of your body. Because once you're also in that state of hyper awareness or overproduction of cortisol or however you want to put it, what happens is you continue to not only be in that state, but you go down that road further and further. It's harder to draw yourself back, if you know what I mean. So once you can start to regulate that system, it helps to stop those patterns of continuing to go to be in that unregulated state. Did Sandra have a question? Were you gonna? Or if
Can you write it in the chat, Sandra, if you got a question? When I was first learning heart math on my HRV, I noticed that it showed me that just because I'm having a mental imagery doesn't mean I'm communicating with my body. You know, just I've always been a very graphic guy in my head, but I was surprised that what I thought was a coherent meditation was just imagery in my mind. And so what the HeartMath little monitor did for me is it helped me drive from my imagination in my field. I was in the field, in the awareness stage, but I wasn't connecting to the heart like I thought I was.
mm,
And that was the victory dance that this little toy gave me, is that there's another step between going from the awareness, from the attention out the front to awareness in the back where the images reign. But that's still up here. There's a whole nother step to driving it and operating in your heart. And that was the victory dance that this little monitor gave me. And I didn't even know about that heart coherence until I started doing this, and I couldn't do it because I didn't know to go from here to my heart. And even though Dr. Joe said it, I didn't know what it was meant. I didn't know. I didn't have a feedback device.
yeah.
This gave me the feedback device and it said, "You're not even close, Ray." Until I started practicing it.
So some people may not know what you're talking about, the device. So with HeartMath, what I like to say with HeartMath is that they use simple techniques and profound technology. So HeartMath is really about a series of breathing techniques that really help you to get heart centered. So that's basically in a very, low level explanation. So HeartMath uses these different ways for people to be able to get into a heart coherence, um, into heart coherence. And they have several different techniques that you can use in different types of situations. There's a couple that I'm going to go through tonight and actually bring you through an experience that are the foundational techniques. And then on top, and HeartMath has actually now they have on their website, it used to be 300, but now there's over 400, and I think coming up on 500 published studies that show scientifically how when you are in a heart coherent state, that it changes your biology and physiology. So like we were talking about earlier, the drugs that you take and how it can, how your body can do these things itself, it helps you to basically do that. And that's what we did just at the AFU that I went to at Marco Island. The name or the retreat, not name of it, but the theme of it was Molecules of the Mystical 2, because he's already done it at another one, where Dr. Joe is actually measuring the different molecules that your body makes. Yes, Mary, that your body actually can make during certain guided meditations. But that's what Heartmath has been studying also. Not necessarily in the mystical, because that's something that Dr. Joe does, but what Heartmath focuses on is your heart. So your heart, like I said, is where it all begins and ends. And what I mean by that is when you are in a heart coherent state, it sends out signals to your body, especially your brain, and your heart talks more to the brain than the brain talks to the heart. And it sends more information there that when you are in a heart coherent state, that will help you to get into not only a heart coherent state, but that means you can access certain like higher functions of your brain. So when you're in a heart coherent state, for instance, your heart talks to the brain part that regulates your executive decision making. That's why you feel clearer when you're not so stressed. You can make better decisions. You can make better thought. You have better thoughts. You don't feel that fog around you and things like that. So Heartmath uses techniques. They also have profound technology. So they have different devices that they use where you can actually measure your heart coherence. What you measure is your heart rate variability, and your heart rate variability is the variations of your heartbeat, each heartbeat. So it's not your heartbeat, it's the variation in time between each heartbeat. So other devices do this, like the Oura Ring, the Apple iWatch, or whatever. With us, the technology is such that it measures every 5 seconds, looking back 64 seconds. The Oura Ring, for instance, measures like twice overnight. So there's a much more precise method. So you can actually measure your heart rate variability and therefore your heart coherence. And so that's something that is really unique about Heartmath, is that you can actually measure it. So with the simple tools and the profound technology, Heartmath is able to help people to get into a heart coherent state, and therefore to stay in that heart coherent rate throughout the day. That's what I have found.
There's a question for you, Angela.
So can you talk into so Mindy is saying, can you talk into the different levels you can set the device to? Hi, Mindy, good to see you. Absolutely. So with now,
Let me interrupt you a second, Angela, before you go there. There's a little bit of foundation need to be go before we get to that question, Mindy. Uh, because unless you're already familiar a little bit,
right,
talking about the levels don't make sense. So get a
right,
little
and I was
bit
going to say
foundation
that.
on the device.
Yeah. So the device, so the technology that HeartMath has. Now, the thing that I want to emphasize here, though, it's around $200 for the device. Uh,
This is a device I bought 4 or 5 years ago. It was the most simple one they have, and it's not
yeah,
for sale anymore.
yeah, they have another higher level. Now, I'm not pushing the necessarily the device. I do have a link, but if you want to buy a device, just go to their website and purchase it. I feel like it's a really great tool to use if you really want to measure getting into coherence. It's a great training device because you think you may be in heart coherence and you're in your meditation, you're doing really well. Yes, I'm in coherence, and you look and you really aren't. So it's a really great device to really train how do you feel when you're in heart coherence. And it can be a little frustrating at times because you think you can get into coherence and you're not. So, with that being said, I feel like the device or any of their technology is a wonderful tool, but you don't have to use it to get the benefit out of HeartMath. So I just want to be clear on that for everybody. It's a great, great tool to have in your arsenal if that's what you want. But if you feel like that might be too much or you can't spend that or whatever, you can still get benefit. The device that I have is one that Ray has. It's like this. So this little clip goes on your ear, and this little device, what happens is you turn it on, and it is I don't know if you can see it. And so just this in the ear. So it hooks up with Wi-Fi or Bluetooth to an app on your phone, which is free from Heartmath. And what happens is you turn the device on, you go into a session, you practice heart coherence, and it will basically read. And I'm not going to go into detail because that's not what the purpose of this is. But it has a lot of different pieces of information that it will gather, and it will give you a synopsis of like how long was your session, how long were you in high coherence, how long were you in low coherence, how long were you in medium coherence, how many point they kind of gamify it, how many points did you get for being in those coherent states and that type of thing. So again, and there's different levels, kind of like a game, right? There's a lower level, then higher levels. And when you are at a lower level, and actually with the newer app and stuff, they kind of did away with the levels. So I can speak to that, but I'm really not going to take the time to do that, because with the new one, because that was something that was very confusing for people about what levels to go to. But basically, if you were at a lower level and you were always winning all the time 100%, you just go to the next level. And what the next level did is it just became a little bit more sensitive, so it would read it even more clear. So again, the device is great. If you have any specific questions, you can reach out to me. I think I know a lot of you from some of the different groups that I'm in, but for the purpose of tonight, I really wanted to go over, because I think Heartmath is just still fairly new for a lot of people, is just how can it still help you even without the technology. So one of the things we're going to do, and Ray already did, but he put in the link for the overview, that free 90-minute video series from Heartmath, which is, and they go over a couple of their techniques, and they go over why Heartmath is so effective. So like I said, with Heartmath, what I love is that it's the profound technology, but it's simple techniques. So there really is just some. And can I go ahead and start going into that, Ray?
Yes, that would be yes, that would be great. I'd love that.
Okay. So with Heart, and again, I could spend hours on here explaining the science. Some of you who have been on some of the calls with me at other times, like Angela, I can tell you the science of how all of this works.
Well,
But
Dr. Joe's audience has a little bit being a little bit used to the basic science. We don't need a
yes.
degree, and so talk a little talk tech to us. We'd like a little bit.
Okay. So, and I have talked a little bit already about the heart coherence, but basically, I think we all know, and Dr. Bruce Lipton talks about this too and stuff, but what happens in our body is that when we have genes, and but genes are only protein making machines. Epigenetics is before the gene. So the genes are protein making machines in our body, and what happens is they are, a way to say it is, they are turned on or off, which is not technically correct, but that's what most people understand. They're turned on or off by the environment. So the environment is what you eat, what you drink, exercise, physical blunt trauma, toxins, that type of thing. But then the biggest contributor to epigenetics are your thoughts. And like Dr. Joe said, if you knew how powerful your thoughts are, you would never let a thought go by that wasn't of highest service to you. And it really isn't even the thought that affects the genes so much. It is your perception of the thought. So it's not because you and I can see the same thing and have totally different perceptions about it. And in HeartMath, we call, so thoughts lead to often emotions. And in HeartMath, we call them either regenerating emotions, which are the glad, happy, thankful, appreciating. And then there are depleting emotions. And if you think about depleting emotions, anger, frustration, jealousy, rage, any of those type of things, if you think about it, they truly are depleting. Because what happens is when you have those kind of emotions, you have generally an overproduction of cortisol. We need cortisol in our body, but you get an overproduction. And then what happens is it's sustained at a higher level than what you need. And it throws that nervous system out of balance, as I said. It's estimated that 90% of doctor visits today are from an overproduction of cortisol because it leads to inflammation in the body, which leads to chronic disease. Now that's a very, 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 very simplified way of saying it. Don't take me at my word, but that's just a very simplified way of saying it. So with that overproduction of cortisol caused by the depleting emotions, it triggers that parasympathetic nervous system. So when you have regenerating emotions, you decrease that amount of cortisol, so you get it more in balance, so that you can have that parasympathetic kick in and you can have that balance of the two systems, which means it leads to decreased cortisol, which means it can actually help chronic diseases such as diabetes, heart disease, fatigue, immunocompromise. All of those conditions are thought to a primary cause of them is the overproduction of cortisol. So by using the simple techniques and other things that you might do to increase your regenerating thoughts and decrease your depleting thoughts, just by getting that balance, you can change your biology, chemistry, and physiology.
Angela, very good. And we can use that to answer the two questions that we had, one from Donna and one from Lori. But I want you to answer the one from Laura first, and that will give me a foundation to explain the question from Donna. Would you read those?
Yep. So look at Lori's first.
Yes.
So this is talking about exactly the coherence numbers and what it measures. And again, there's a lot of information that goes into that, and I think it's beyond the scope of this call, Ray. You just used it today. If you want to talk a little bit about your experience, and it's not that I don't want to, but basically what the device is measuring is your heart rate variability. And your heart rate variability, as I just said, is the timing between your heartbeats. And the more consistent and smooth that timing is, now you don't want it to be, it's always going to vary. Every heartbeat to heartbeat, the timing is going to vary. Because if it didn't, what would it be? A flat line. And you'd have a flat line heart rate. So it's the timing of the heart rate. So when there's a smooth cyclic timing of that heart rate is when you are in a coherent state. So a high coherent state is when you can stay in that state for a period of time, because as I said, it measures every 5 seconds going back 64 seconds. So it's an average of those heart rates.
Okay, I'm going to show them my screen, and you can explain a little bit. That's from today. Is it a little out of focus, I think? Back up a little bit. There you go.
Yeah,
I'm in level
that
4.
that's so there's different levels and everything. So Lori said it was okay. I mean, you can reach out to me, Lori, absolutely, and I can certainly help. But I don't know like how many people here have a device.
It's probably just a
So,
couple
so
from
we
what I
just we have
understand.
two people. We have two
Yeah.
people. So I
But
think
the
the more
question
important
had to
thing,
do with the numbers. And
right?
and to answer the question from Donna, I needed the foundation of what numbers they were talking about. Okay. When I got this device, like I said, I was under cancer care. I had phase 3, phase 4 melanoma cancer. They were cutting me or burning me. Uh, just doctors kept telling me that get your will in order because I'm not going to survive. Really, how's that for a prognosis? Uh, and so I started doing Dr. Joe's work, and I knew to go into my awareness phase, but I didn't understand heart coherence. And when I thought about heart coherence, I thought I was doing it until I bought this device, and I realized on level 1, I wasn't even getting near it. I couldn't find the connection from mind heart. And what's good about having something like this, if you're having that kind of problem, some people don't have that problem. They just have a talent. They go down and they're there and they're happy. I was not one of those kind of people. And but this gave me the feedback. Okay, I think about my heart. No, I didn't. I think about my heart. Not, and I just kind of wander around in my imagination from my area awareness, because Dr. Joe says, put your attention on this part and this part and this part. And, I do that in my heart, and I was wandering around waiting for this device to go, there it is. That's that's the magic of it. If you're one of the people that can find it and know it and feel it, then this little device is less important to you. For
Yeah,
me, it was a critical step because I now know when I'm not in it, I know I'm
yeah,
not in it because there's
yeah.
a chemical and energy release when you get it right. And and
Absolutely,
that's
because
what this did for me.
and that's what it's all about. Is when we're doing Dr. Joe's work or Heart Math's work or whatever it is, our basic what we're really trying to do is to intentionally intentionally I don't want to put this control the chemicals in our body. I don't want to say control, but regulate. That's the word I was looking for. Intentionally regulate the chemicals of our body so that we aren't in that overproduction of cortisol and we are in more of a state of having, the other chemicals that we want, dopamine, melatonin. We learned all of these, didn't we, Mary? Where are you? Just recently. So without the device, how do we really know if we're in coherence? So you may not know exactly if for me, I can tell when I'm in coherence or not now. And I've used the device, but I also just know because of how I feel, for
Yes.
myself. When I'm frustrated, and when I have any kind of feeling or emotion or thought that I don't want, I know I'm not in a heart coherent state. And so you got the device and you're not in coherence. Yeah, it takes practice, right? Right. It really takes a lot
Yes.
of practice. So, that may be again something that if you really want to further your work in this, that is something that you might want to consider with HeartMath. Is to really is to look at purchasing that device and using that to really measure getting into a coherent state. I guess my thing is I I don't want people to think it's outside of them. It's in you. Everything you need to know in your answer is in you. Yes, that helps to measure. Yes, that helps to show, but I don't want people to not try to continue to do the work or to get into heart coherence because they don't have that, if that makes sense. So let me take you through let me take you through an exercise with Heartmath. So Heartmath has a very basic breathing technique, which is called heart-centered breathing. And we all kind of know this from Dr. Joe. And I'm going to take you through an exercise, but I'm also going to show you, I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to show you. So this is a new handout that they just recently came out with. So basically, and anybody who's interested in it, you can message me through wherever you know me, and I can certainly send it to you, or you can sign up for my newsletter, and I'm going to be sending it out with my newsletter when I announce this, when Ray has this posted on YouTube. So I'll send this out with the video link. So basically, this is what we've just been talking about, is that how stress affects the body physically, mentally, and emotionally, and what can we do about it? And like it says here, it's not the event or situation that creates the stress, it's how we respond to it. Positive emotions are good for us. Obviously, we know that they help our systems to synchronize and work better. Because what happens is once your heart and brain once your heart gets into a coherent state, it will bring the brain into a coherent state. You cannot have brain coherence without heart coherence. You can have heart coherence without brain coherence, because the heart will get the brain into coherence. So that's a pretty important point. The other thing is, then you have entrainment. So what happens is then it starts affecting all of the organs of your whole body. It kind of like starts to then all of your other systems can then become into a coherent state. And it says, how does this work? And again, the renewing emotions, like we said, are called coherence. So this is somebody who is out of a coherent state. This is their heart rate, when they're feeling emotions such as frustration and anger. And then this is somebody who's feeling more appreciation and compassion. And how do you practice it? So the most basic method that we have is about focusing attention on your heart, breathing in and out at a rate of 5 seconds at a very normal pace. And that's what this basically says. But again, and it talks about the seeing is believing. So if you see the visual evidence, it helps, the process. So it talks about the technology here. I'm going to stop sharing. So, like I said, I'll send that out. But what I'd like to invite everybody to do at this point, you can leave your camera on or off, it doesn't matter. I'm going to ask you to sit back in your chair. And I'm going to ask you to shut your eyes. And what I like to do, because it reminds me to breathe in and out through my heart. So I like to put my left hand, because that's the feminine side of our body, if you don't know the left side of our body. And I put my right hand on my second center, because that's the masculine side, and that's the center, the second center, what I like to call my power, my stability. And I'd like you to start breathing in and out through your nose, natural. There's none of this, none of that kind of stuff with this one. Breathe in and out natural through your nose, 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. But when you take that breath in, really focus on that breath coming in through your nose, down to your heart, and out from your heart. Just breathing at a rate of 5 seconds in and 5 seconds out, or whatever is comfortable for you, that rhythmic breathing can get you into a state of coherence. Focusing your breath on the chest. I like to think of it as breathing in light and lightness, going through my chest, and then breathing out. And then to add to this, we're going to take one of those regenerating feelings. And not just happiness, but think about a memory or think about an experience that you had where you really felt joyful, happy. Your dog came up and kissed you unexpectedly. You just got married, whatever that may be. And thinking about that experience, how did you feel? And try to put yourself in that feeling. Let a smile come to your face. Breathe in 5 and out 5. And thoughts are going to come, but don't fight them. Just like a cloud, let them wisp away, slowly disappear. Just bring your focus back to the breath. And just keep feeling that feeling. Whatever it is that may give you a warm tingling. And really focus on the heart, that breath is coming in and out through your heart while you're feeling from the heart that wonderful feeling that you're feeling. And take a couple more breaths before we come back. And then when you're ready, just come back, kind of feel your fingers. I know you may want to stay there. Hmm. And that's just a very, very simple technique that you can do anytime. I actually do it at work. I work still as a community pharmacist a couple days a week, and it can get very chaotic and hectic in there. And in the midst of all the turmoil and craziness, I just put my hand on my chest, and I just, under a minute, you can actually reset your nervous system. Oh, that's beautiful, Mindy. Thank you. Mindy said that was beautiful. Had a memory come to mind right before I left corporate. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And that's something that you can do. Now, with HeartMath, the recommendation is 15 minutes a day of heart coherence activity. It's also suggested to actually do heart coherence before you go into a meditation. Because what happens is you open up your heart before you go into that meditation. If you try to use the device and measure your coherence in a meditation, you are not going to be in coherence. I can tell you that. Because just the way that it measures and the way that your biology and physiology changes, especially through one of Dr. Joe's meditations, right? Because he takes you all over the place. So the recommendation is to do heart coherence before you go into a meditation and see how that affects your meditation. It'll blow it right open. So 15 minutes does not have to even be contiguous. And what I mean, it can be 5, 5, and 5. So if you don't have 15 minutes a day, you need to do it for 30. That is my prescription for you. So 15 minutes a day, and one does not add up to 2. 1, if you do it on a consistent basis, has been shown that it has an additive, and this is scientifically proven with HeartMath, has a additive effect. And then if you throw in an additional 15-minute 1 day a week, it really helps to increase your emotional intelligence or your resiliency. Because if you can start to really practice this, it's not just about getting in heart coherence for a number, or it's not just about the biology. Yes, that's all really great. And of course, it's going to lead to really good things. But how would it be to feel really in control of your emotions so that when something upsetting happens, you don't have to react to it the same way? Right? That's the thing that we care about. That you don't feel like you have to be a raving bitch, because this was crazy, that you can just maintain your level. And if you do start to go there, to catch yourself, and in a minute you can pivot. So that's what I feel like is really the beauty of heart math, that you can, and these are just two of the techniques, there are others, to take that one to another level, which I'm not going to do with you tonight, but you can practice on it. And it's also in heart math, but you can radiate that feeling out to yourself and to others. And as we all know, when you give, you get. Angela, when you give anything, and Mary, you're being healers. When you give, you get. So when you radiate that out, you radiate it out first to like your household, and then maybe to your town, to your state, to the world, and then and then you can come back to yourself at the end of that. So 15 minutes a day, and then once a week, 15 minutes of practice. And like I said, the device is great, and you don't have to have it to still get benefit. So so even 5 minutes, yes, absolutely. Laura asks, even 5 minutes before a meditation, absolutely, it will help, because it really helps. And remember the goals flying in unison. Oh yeah, that was beautiful, Marco Island. So what happened for me, um, so if you look at the science of you so Laura's asking, I don't understand why we would not be on heart coherence during a meditation. I thought that was one of the main objectives of the meditation. It so Roland, I'll try to find the article where Roland McCready, who is the head of research for heart math, talked about this, and talked about how he gets into a heart coherent state to go into the meditation. Because during the meditation, the way that your body reacts at times is it doesn't always show on the device and the numbers the way that it does if you're focused solely on the heart coherence. So I'll try to find that and send that out. But at Marco Island, that I was just at the AFU, I went there, and I was a Healy, and I was a Healy in September, and I had an amazing healing there on a physical body part. And this time it was like, you know what? I don't want to necessarily focus on just a specific body part. I just want to focus on opening up my heart and continuing to do that. And with, I think, my heart math and the way that the session was, it was just, anybody who was there, and even Dr. Joe talked about it, it was the most incredible session the third day, where I feel like my heart just blew open. And what I mean by that, because somebody said, well, what do you mean? And I really thought about it. And again, I think it's because of the heart math and how much of that I do, is I felt like nothing else mattered in that moment. There was nothing else but love. There was nothing but love. There was no time. There was no space. There was no negative. There was no positive. There was no judgment of anything. It was just incredible how in that moment I just felt this love like I've never felt before, and everything else stopped. And I feel like that was possible because not only of the vent, but because of really practicing on opening up my heart all along with heart math. And since I've been back, I feel like I'm a different person, and that I just, I don't get upset. And not that I did before that, but it just is a different new level.
I'd like to take a stab at Lori's statement about heart coherence during meditation. I need to divide my answer into two parts. The first part is that if you were really an advanced student in coherence, then you would stay in coherence the way Dr. Joe gives his guided meditations. But I'm not. When Dr. Joe says, put your attention here, go to awareness, put your attention here, go to awareness, put your attention here, go to awareness. You know how he does when he moves you around? Every time you break that awareness, you kind of break the heart coherence. Um, at least I do. And so it's hard to do it. But like I said, if you really, I don't want to, I got to use the word master. If you're really mastered the process, then you could move around your awareness and stay in heart coherence, and it would just be a flowing process. Uh, if you could really get
Well,
into that no place, no body, no time zone that Angela just mentioned, then you could do it. But
right.
I can only get there occasionally. I've been there, and it's just like what she says. It's wow, it doesn't say it, but I can't always achieve it. I've got busy mind, and so I'm in and out of awareness, in and out of heart coherence, and so that's my answer. Kind of a two part answer.
And as I said, when I heard Roland McCready say that, who helped start Heart Math and is head of research for Heart Math, when he said he personally does it before meditation, I'm thinking that there must be a reason because it just helps him to get into it just helps him to go further in his meditation because he's already in that state before he even gets into the meditation.
All right,
But try it.
we're
Try.
getting
I
close
think
to.
everybody should try it, and whatever works for you is what's best.
Yeah,
There's no
exactly.
one prescription for everything.
Right, right. Okay, we're getting close to the wrap up time. I'm sure looking forward to some comments. What did we leave out? What questions? What definitions? What how to's? What histories are you interested in knowing about? I posted while you guys are formulating the question at the very beginning of the chat line. I posted a contact for HeartMath Institute, and I posted a contact for uh, Angela. And I can give you the most important one of those two again for those who came in late. And of course, that is the posting for Angela. Let me, oops, there it is. That is the posting for Angela, her little web page. And it's really well done, by the way, folks. So check it out.
Thank you.
And is um, and so you go there, check her, ask her questions, find out what things she does, and how you can get more information on this great breadth of knowledge that she has. I'm starting to meet so many people that do so many things. I'm thinking, God, I'm just a one horse pony ride here, and just all these other people can do so many things. you know, just like
No, we're all in it together. We
yeah.
all contribute our gifts and talents. So I appreciate you asking me on, Ray, and having me.
Oh, really? I mean, just I loved it. The audience loved it. It's a pretty good audience here, and look at this. No one's left. They're out. They
I
want to.
know.
They don't want to miss a thing you're saying, Angela.
Yep. And I know, Ray, you said you were going to do
I was going to do a guided meditation after we say goodbye here, and
yeah.
the what I learned with this is such a significant part is that what some of you may not know is I've been diagnosed with two advanced cases of cancer, surgery level cancer, and
Mm.
both of them were freed in me abruptly. Not, no, no, no. I mean, just like I go into surgery and the doctor says it's not there. We're talking like it's there. I got pictures of it, and in my MRI, I got diagnostic documents in it. And a month later, when I go into surgery, I'm clean. How's that? Uh,
Somebody, oh, I'm sorry.
no, I get cranked up in that, and I can't believe I'm telling my own story. Yeah, it's like,
Somebody was just asked a question because I have to go shortly because I knew we were going to end and I have another call actually. Somebody asked about an Aura ring, which measures HRV. It shows a much lower 7-hour average than HeartMath device does. And that's because the Aura ring, HeartMath measures you. I don't think you normally have it on overnight like the Aura ring, but the Aura ring measures just like hourly. It measures it really different and it doesn't. So with the HeartMath devices, it measures every, it gives you a reading every 5 seconds going back 64 seconds, so it's much more accurate than an Aura ring. And the Aura ring, because it's doing multiple things, doesn't have the technology in it to really measure as accurately or as intensely as I think the um, HeartMath.
any other questions?
Yes.
The
Yes, Dennis. Yep. Just better technology. Yep.
just yeah. The the bottom line is that not everybody needs us, but I think it's a help. It was a big help for me. I needed it, and I'm
Yep.
glad I bought it. And I used it very regularly the first year I had it until I got confident in it. And you know,
Yep. And they use it a lot. Like I was saying, the military we work with, HeartMath. We also work with a lot of elite athletes and like Olympians and that type of thing. And in that kind of competitiveness, a second can mean everything, right? So if you can manage that heart rate variability and manage your emotions, you can just perform that much better.
right.
So that's an example of one of the areas that it really that they've really shined in. I am so appreciative of everybody. Thank you again, Ray, and good night, everybody.
Any last words on the heart coherence?
Say that again.
Any last words about heart coherence?
Practice it.
There you go.
Do the damn work.
There you go.
Thank you, Angela. Thank you so much.
Everybody
You're
say thank
welcome.
you to Angela.
Yes,
Thank you.
I'm gonna have to run, but anybody who wants to stay, Ray's gonna do a meditation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Angela.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Ray, for having me.
Love you, Angela.
Love you too, Ray. Thank you.